For years. And so many mentally perturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it. I have a whole host of examples that we can share with you after. It is pages and pages of major Democrat Party elected officials saying, such as Rep. Hakeem Jeffries just this month said, "We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere all the time."
I stand by it. You can continue to criticize me for it.
Many people in this room, if we're going to be honest about it, have done it as well. They're just as guilty as a lot of people on X. When you have reporters, when you have media just being overly critical and calling the president horrible names for no reason and without evidence, without proof, it shouldn't surprise us that this type of rhetoric takes place.
And the timing of what's happening this week tells you everything. Today, King Charles arrives in Washington, just as a conveniently timed book is published called The Queen and Her Presidents, The Hidden Hand That Shaped History. Well, that hidden hand is not happy with Donald Trump.
What happens when the enemy is not external, but inside?
Many people in this room, if we're going to be honest about it,
as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be MAGA. To me,
Saturday night, Donald Trump is the target of a third.
Boy, do we have a video packed with all kinds of information, decodes, and more, from the continued evil Democrats standing behind their death cult, to the King's visit with President Trump, to Dan Scavino's post and President Trump's posts, and others letting us know how this is all playing out. You do not want to miss the great decodes done by many Anons out there, specifically one that caught by Ultra MAGA Dean Erickson. We're at 500,000 plus followers on Rumble. Thank you for that, folks. Thank you for sharing this channel and also hitting that follow button. The like button actually helps us get to the top of the leaderboard. Again, we were in the top 3 yesterday, and that's thanks to your comments and that like button. Also, we're celebrating 250 years with our Independence Day merch, and we've got our women's 3/4 sleeve V-necks finally here. I'm going to show you some Patriots later on in this video. Stand by for that.
As I told many of you on Friday afternoon, I thought that would be my last time taking your questions until after my maternity leave. But given the attempted assassination of the president and, quote, top Trump administration officials, as the depraved shooter noted in his manifesto at the White House Correspondents Association dinner on Saturday evening, I felt it was prudent to be here today to answer your questions and inform the American people about how the administration is responding to yet another attempt on President Trump's life.
That is a true American fighting for our country. There she is. It's about a week away from giving birth. Instead of heading in that direction, what does she do? She stands before the United States of America, and she's ready to pummel on these sick, evil, demented, media, satanic, possessed people to their face to let them know what they have done to our country.
For years. And so many mentally perturbed individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it. I have a whole host of examples that we can share with you after. It is pages and pages of major Democrat Party elected officials saying, such as Rep. Hakeem Jeffries just this month said, "We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere all the time." Governor Josh Shapiro said heads need to roll within the administration. Senator Alex Padilla said people are, quote, dying because of fear and terror caused by the Trump administration. Senator Elizabeth Warren, President Trump is making the country look like a, quote, fascist state. Senator Adam Schiff saying President Trump using a dictator playbook. Senator Ed Markey calling President Trump a dictator, saying that this administration's actions are authoritarianism on steroids. Governor J.B. Pritzker, never before in my life have I called for mass protest disruptions. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. You have Rep. Presley saying, "We'll see you in the streets." Rep. Monica McIver, a Democrat representative on Capitol Hill, "We will not from Donald Trump. He thinks he's a dictator. We are at war." These are Democrat elected officials calling for war against the president of the United States and his supporters. I could go on and on, but again, when you have people in positions of power that are saying things like this every single day for years, you are inspiring violence by people who are already mentally ill. And that's what we've seen against this president for far too long.
Now, after pointing this out, you think the media is going to run with it and say you're right? You think the look on the face of that media personality right there, who I don't really know, if you're looking at the screen, if you happen to know who that is, just staring down the press secretary, barely moving at all, as she goes through that litany of satanic published information. She looks like she doesn't even care. Another person doesn't care would be this character right here, Jeffries.
As it relates to anything that has been said, certainly as it relates to the comment related to maximum warfare everywhere, all the time, in connection with the redistricting battle that Republicans launched. I stand by it. You can continue to criticize me for it. I don't give a damn criticism.
Doesn't care. You know, I saw this clip came out on social media. The Democrat Party is America's Hamas.
So let's call a spade a spade. The Democratic Party is turning its constituents into terrorists, and they're doing it on purpose. The constant rhetoric that creates fear will eventually turn into hate, which we already see. And if that hate is allowed to fester long enough, it will turn into desperation, which then leads into violence. What I'm saying is eventually, all of the Democratic supporters will get to a point where they feel like the unaliving of Trump, the cabinet, and all of their supporters will be the saving of America. And the Democratic Party knows that if they continue to spread fear and confusion and chaos, that their constituents will eventually become chaotic. They will become rioters. They will become terrorists. And we're seeing that more and more each day. This is what they want. People like Harry Sisson and Aaron Parnes are being paid to turn the Democratic supporters into terrorists. At some point, they will feel like the unaliving of MAGA, of anybody who supports Trump, would be a positive thing for America. This is where they're going. This is how demented this party is. The Democratic Party is America's Hamas. God bless.
Interesting, huh? You know, all this playing out day after day makes you wonder just how much more this country can take before it gets to the very precipice that we've been talking about.
For example, as the First Lady of the United States pointed out this morning, just 2 days prior to the shooting, ABC's late night host Jimmy Kimmel disgustingly called First Lady Melania Trump an expectant widow. Who in their right minds says a wife would be glowing over the potential murder of her beloved husband? And having experienced what I did with the First Lady on Saturday night, I can tell you that she was anything but that. This kind of rhetoric about the president, the First Lady, and his supporters is completely deranged, and it's unbelievable that the American people are consuming it night after night after night. As President Trump said on Saturday night at this podium, we as Americans must recommit ourselves to resolving our differences peacefully and uniting around the shared values that make our country.
Yeah. Jimmy Kimmel continues to come up.
Democrats are the dumbest people on the planet. The dumbest. I'm watching every one of them destroy themselves. They get online or they get up in front of audience and they say the dumbest things to destroy themselves. Look at Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel is done. I just want y'all to understand this. He's done. He has no more credibility. Nobody cares for him. And after that comment that he made to Melania, saying that she looks like a widow, he's done. He's done. He is done. Let me tell you something. Melania, she responded. And once the wife, people don't understand this. Most of the time, the wife is the one keeping the husband calm. if she's not a treacherous person. Usually it's the wife that says, oh, honey, you know, they're just being who they are. Don't worry about it. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it phase you. You just keep doing you. Not now. Not this time. Jimmy's done. He is done. That was the most disrespectful thing that you could say. When you tell a person they look like a widow, he's done. He's done. He is done. And he did it to himself. And I'm here for it. Where's my popcorn? It's just like when Jesus told Moses, tell Pharaoh to let my people go, but he's not. Because I want to lay my hand on him. He's going to harden his heart. Oh, Jimmy's heart is hardened so much that he didn't talk himself right on out of a career. He has talked himself right on out of accreditation. He has talked himself out of friends. He's getting ready to be alienated out here because tell us how you really feel, Jimmy. Don't nobody watch that dry show with that dry comedy. They lying to you. You ain't funny. You suck. We know you in them Epstein files. We know you grabbing your ankles to get to where you are. You are done. He is done. I am here for it. Go back.
How about that, huh? More and more folks are grabbing their camera, their phones, and they're saying, you know what, I'm going to hit record. I'm going to create a social media presence, and they're getting their voices out there. And they're being heard loud and clear. We've got a lot more to get into. You would not believe the amazing comms behind the visit of King Charles to the White House there with Melania and President Trump. Boy, oh boy, you do not want to miss it. Well, every time a missile goes off or a bomb explodes, microplastic particles are released into the upper atmosphere and spread throughout the earth, making their way into the air we breathe and the food we eat. Because they're so small, they get absorbed into the bloodstream and our organs where they build up over time, triggering inflammation and increasing the risk of heart disease, cancer, and even Alzheimer's. But there's something incredible. New research now showing that certain probiotics found only in kimchi can bind these microplastics and help remove them from the body. The results showed that people taking the kimchi-derived probiotic were clearing out nearly twice as many microplastics. And it doesn't stop there. Another study found that a specific strain in kimchi, Bacillus pumilus, can break down BPA, one of the most toxic chemicals in plastic. What that means is your body actually has the ability to get rid of toxins, but only when your gut is balanced and functioning the way it's supposed to. But here's the challenge. Most people aren't eating kimchi consistently enough to get these benefits. That's why Brightcore created Kimchi One with over 900 plus strains of beneficial bacteria that deliver all the benefits of real kimchi in convenient capsules, no taste, no smell, non-GMO, and 100% made in the USA. Today, you can try Kimchi One by clicking the link below for 25% off your entire order, or for the best deal available, call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off plus free shipping. Call now 888-317-9941. That's 888-317-9941.
I want to make this clear. This man was a floor above the ballroom with hundreds of federal agents between him and the President of the United States. The Department of Justice approaches incidents like this with urgency and clarity of purpose. Violence has no place in civic life. It cannot and will not be used to disrupt democratic institutions or intimidate those who serve them, and it certainly cannot continue to be used against the President of the United States. We are investigating this matter fully. We will apply the law fairly, and we will ensure that accountability is swift and certain. But we also should recognize what did not happen. Law enforcement did not fail. They did exactly what they are trained to do. This was not an accident. It was the result, as we know now, of preparation. But the men and women who protected us that night were trained, professional, and had an enduring commitment to the rule of law. Today, the Department of Justice filed 3 federal charges in United States District Court against Cole Thomas Allen. The first count is attempted assassination of the President of the United States. This count is punishable by up to life in prison. The second count is interstate transportation of a firearm to commit a felony. This is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. And the third count is discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence, which is punishable by a mandatory minimum term of imprisonment of 10 years, a maximum of life, and the 10 years is consecutive to any other sentence imposed.
Continue to watch these clowns get taken down one at a time. Dan Scavino Jr. said there was nothing better for the president and those of us who were with him in Butler, Pennsylvania, than to go back and finish what was started. After the assassination attempt in Butler, many of us in attendance had to go through a healing process, just as many will have to do who attended the White House Correspondents' Dinner. I can assure you, as someone who has sadly been through this more than once, that a significant part of the process is not letting the lunatic win. Finish what was started. There were awards to be given, speeches to be made. This is a time to unify, come together, and move forward together. The president has made it clear that he is all in. We live in the greatest country in the world, and it is imperative to finish what was started. This is another defining moment. As President Trump has made clear, I hope that we can have it within a short period of time, because we can't let these criminals and these really bad people change the course of events in our country, USA. He said something very interesting. Finish what was started. If you look at the cue drops, what was matched there is, are you ready to finish what we started? Nothing can stop what is coming is not just a catchphrase. You know, after this attempt on President Trump's life, there are several folks going out on X to basically show their support for the guy who went in there to take the shots. There was a Cincinnati pre-K teacher, Karina Baum, who was fired from Bright Path Bridgetown Child Care Center after her viral TikTok, where she openly complained, "I woke up to the news, but not that news." She was disappointed President Trump was not taken down, gestures and faces and all. She was teaching little kids as recently as Sunday. School statement: our organization does not tolerate and explicitly condemns any calls for violence. She's been terminated. Good, no place for this around children. Actions have consequences. Another one, a teacher at a high school in Wisconsin who complained that the shooter failed to kill Trump, has been placed on administrative leave. He needs to be fired for good, Patrick, from the Kakana High School there. Here's something else for you to see. The shooter at the White House Correspondents' Dinner has been identified right as 30-year-old Cole Allen from Torrance, California. Cole is a former driver for Savannah Guthrie, and his wife is currently working as her assistant. Yes, that's Savannah Guthrie, the one that was going after President Trump, who was a follower of basically calling him part of QAnon, these guys who are against or accusing certain people of being Satanists and trafficking children. And she did it with these evil eyes as if she was demon possessed, as if she was guilty of what she was calling him out on. We'll never forget that.
Many people in this room, if we're going to be honest about it, have done it as well. They're just as guilty as a lot of people on X. When you have reporters, when you have media just being overly critical and calling the president horrible names for no reason and without evidence, without proof, it shouldn't surprise us that this type of rhetoric takes place. If you look at what it appears that this defendant had in his past, we're talking about somebody who is college educated, who has a job, who is otherwise living his life. And we'll find out more about him, as I expect, in the coming days and weeks. But he chose to do what he did. And so our threat environment is, we are ready. I mean, I'm not going to go through what Director Patel just talked about with the way we responded. But this was something that we will always be prepared for. And it's sad that it has to happen, but it's not a new thing, unfortunately.
The accusations continue to show who these evil people really are. You know, I want to show you a clip real quick, kind of pause here before we get to the information on the king's visit to the White House. A snarky white liberal woman was schooled by a black and Hispanic conservative on crime and foreign policy, Trump and the Bible. And this is on that show that happens to be on YouTube.
So again, I hear the things that you value, and I believe you that you value these things. What I'm saying to you is, if you're a Trump supporter, especially right now to this day, do you still support Trump, or are you like not on his?
I support him. I don't support everything
Then I
he
don't
does.
know how you do so and hold your values.
Hi there. So I'm a former Democrat, and the Democrat Party has gotten so haywire that I find myself way more comfortable aligning with conservative values. And you brought up the Bible. Let's talk about Samson and King David, who were flawed individuals, but turned out to be incredible leaders. I'm not picking my president based on his human flaws. And by the way, did you know that he has fantastic relationships with each of his ex-wives? All the children get along. You just look at his children and grandchildren and how they absolutely adore him. You cannot say that about the Biden family, but I don't even want to split hairs. The bottom line is, what Trump has brought back to the American people is peace through strength. And when you have accountability, and you understand that diplomacy doesn't often work with bad actors, but deterrence does. I feel safer under law and order. I feel safer under accountability, and I am a Trump supporter all day.
Do you feel safer knowing that the FBI had to release a statement that Iran was setting up drones to attack the California coast as a result of his war?
I think
you feel safer or less safe?
So I think the FBI and the DOJ have a lot of corruptions under both
They
administrations.
just lied about that?
No, I mean, again, you're not responding to what I've said.
What do I need to respond to?
Yeah, so peace through deterrence. Trump was handed a mess in 2024. Biden lifted sanctions in Iran. October 7th in Israel never would have happened.
Actually,
the
Trump
war in
lifted
Ukraine and
sanctions
Russia.
from Iran. Hold on, Trump lifted the sanctions from Iran.
No,
he left the JCPOA.
No,
yes, he did.
What is the reason? Okay, let Dominic take this. This is her.
It was actually the Biden administration in the summer of 2016. So with the hostage exchange, 6 million of sanctions were given back to Iran, and then 10 million from Iraq were lifted.
So the JCPOA was pulled out of by Trump.
Yeah, but that's totally different.
That's the sanctions that we're talking about.
No. That's the legacy of the Obama administration. There was an expiration date and there was not a renewal. So those are two separate things.
So Trump pulled out of the JCPOA,
but that's not
which was
lifting
the sanctions.
No.
Those were the sanctions that were holding them accountable and making sure that they didn't develop.
No, that wasn't sanctions. It was a series of checks and balances for the regime. Which
Why
they
did
never
they agree to those
with.
checks and balances?
Because Obama released $1.7 billion to the regime. They never complied with the JCPOA. That's why Trump didn't pursue renewing it. There was a clause that ended. They didn't renegotiate for it. So Trump didn't end it. There was no renegotiation. The sanctions that were lifted were under the Biden administration.
So I'll continue on law and order. Did you know that in 2025, crime has drastically decreased in record numbers? And that is not by accident. When Trump came down hard in cities like Chicago, DC, and New York, police refunding works. Law and order works. It protects all Americans.
Did you know that crime has been decreasing steadily every single year since like 1960?
You can't ignore the drastic drop.
Does that not matter?
No. It's actually not true. It's not. It hasn't been studying.
True.
In many black neighborhoods like Chicago, it's literally kids can't play outside. So I'm sorry that you live in a bubble and you don't understand the suffering in other in certain communities.
My husband grew up in a homeless shelter, so I don't prefer that not be
a homeless shelter.
Yes, a homeless shelter. So
You're in a homeless shelter. Schooling people on everything that you know and why Trump is bad. And they're giving you the facts. And you're twitching and having convulsions while they're doing it. Yeah. Well, I'm going to show you a clip on what MAGA means in a moment. But, I promised you about King Charles. I want to show you this handshake from President Trump here. If you're looking closely on your screen, President Trump squeezes, pulls him in. King Charles tries to pull him back. President Trump continues to pull him back in, and he's not having it. President Trump just doesn't play. Let me show you some more on this. Interesting symbolism on this used by President Trump where he took him out to see the beehive. Yeah. Mulcher Magadine Erickson said, could he be showing the world what happens to a beehive if it is run without a queen? With the loss of the queen bee, Queen Elizabeth, it creates turmoil with the hive. The colony's social structure suffers, fewer pheromones, and mean worker bees may become disorganized and less productive. With no order in the hive, brood production decreases, no new eggs are laid, and It sounds kind of familiar to what's going on right now in England and around the world, doesn't it? With the loss of Queen Elizabeth, President Trump showing that the cabal's social structure is suffering. And many of the cabal's workers have become disorganized and less productive, and it's falling apart before our very eyes. Once again, President Trump is showing us that we are witnessing the destruction of the old guard and replacing it with a new guard run by we the people. Now, we've been told that Melania is the flag bearer for President Trump, and she's wearing a yellow outfit in the visit with the King and Queen, which means a yellow flag. We know in NASCAR, yellow flag signals a caution period, meaning there is a hazard on or near the track that makes driving conditions unsafe. But also, it might be important to note that in a maritime setting, which we are living in, maritime law right now, a yellow flag indicates caution to all of the sailors of hazardous conditions or disease outbreaks, ensuring they take necessary precautions for safety while navigating waters. It appears that President Trump has brought the caution flag out for some reason. So whether it's for hazardous conditions or another pandemic push or debris on the battlefield to where it will be unsafe for a while, it looks like we are, might be entering a very bumpy time in this battle against the deep state. So keep your heads on a swivel and look for some bumpy roads ahead. Now, something else that we noticed is the snake shoes that Melania was wearing. Remember President Trump reading that whole thing about letting the snake in? Oh, you're such a wonderful. And the snake bit her and then killed her. And hey, why'd you bite me? I let you in. And he said, "Oh, you fool! Should have never let me in." Wonder if that the snake shoes have any significance. What do you guys think with the visit of the snakes to the White House? Oh, you don't want to miss, folks, Promethean action. I'm going to show you several minutes of the uncovering of President Trump's attack the other night and the connections with the visit from the King and Queen and how it all seems to be tied together. You don't want to miss it. But first, I wanted to show you something. The amazing information that's coming forward with this. New Spring Wellness Center. Your all-natural one-stop shop for optimal brain health and overall wellness. They're out of Osage Beach, Lake of the Ozarks. Folks, I've been there twice now. You can reach out to Chad and Katie Burrow for support. Are you a loved one or a loved one struggling with addiction? At New Spring Wellness Center, they offer a proven outpatient program that addresses addiction recovery like no other. Their brain restoration program is designed to restore your health, eliminate cravings, and help you achieve lasting recovery. Folks, I have witnessed it for myself. The changes in people who had addictions. They have faith-based support, IV therapy. They have prayer and so much more. John N. said he had alcohol and brain fog. He said, "I came to New Spring Wellness for alcohol and brain fog, something I've struggled with for over 30 years. I tried AA before, but this treatment was unique, different than anything else, and it offered a better outcome for me. My head feels so much clearer. My faith has deepened. I've made new friendships, and I have no desire for alcohol, completely different than just 2 weeks ago. Around day 5, I started to feel a real change. There's truly no comparison. I feel renewed. The people here are friendly, professional, and knowledgeable. The patient care is excellent. I'd absolutely recommend this to anyone." Amber was addicted to Xanax for 15 years before coming to New Spring Wellness. Tried the inpatient and outpatient programs, counseling, AA. I came to New Spring to ease withdrawal symptoms in a stress-free environment and to begin repairing my neural pathways. A family member who works in recovery told me about it. Almost instantly, my withdrawal symptoms eased, and I finally had time to focus on myself, surrounded by caring individuals. The emotional support and brain restoration formula made a real difference. By days 2 to 4, I had more energy and better focus. Folks, I've talked to people there, prayed with folks that have come through this program. It will change your life. Go in the description box below and click on that link to change your life or others forever. So check this out. Promethean Action actually at it again.
Saturday night, Donald Trump was the target of a third assassination attempt, and it happened at the very same Washington Hilton where Ronald Reagan was shot 45 years ago. Here's what the president said.
You know, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this where they got them. But the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And when you look at the people that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, they're very impactful people. Just take a look at the names there, the big names.
He's right. And he knows exactly what he's talking about. And the timing of what's happening this week tells you everything. Today, King Charles arrives in Washington, just as a conveniently timed book is published called The Queen and Her Presidents, The Hidden Hand That Shaped History. Well, that hidden hand is not happy with Donald Trump, as a new House of Lords report released at Chatham House last week makes very clear. So we have a thwarted assassination attempt, a royal visit, and a Chatham House forum. These are not separate events, although the media will treat them that way. But if you understand how Donald Trump and his administration are dismantling the strategic and economic levers of the British Empire, then you will understand just how connected they are and just how dangerous the current moment is.
Amazing. You know, you can watch the whole video in the description box below. I'm just going to give you some key points that I really enjoyed that she covered here. And so we're going to go to that now. Let me show you right about here.
30 questions, which Barbara Boyd is diving into and will have more to say on soon. But I'm going to address the why. President Trump said it, but to really understand it, you have to go back 125 years. Because the last president who genuinely threatened the British imperial system was William McKinley.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump refers to him often because of his terror policies, which the president has revived. And McKinley made the United States the industrial wonder of the world, as Donald Trump is doing. And McKinley understood the importance of the Western Hemisphere, as Trump does. McKinley was assassinated at a Pan-American exposition. McKinley had continued the American system tradition of Abraham Lincoln, and both of those presidents represented everything the British Empire and the City of London feared. McKinley was assassinated in 1901, but he was not the only leader during that period who was assassinated. In 1894, the president of France was stabbed. In 1897, the Spanish prime minister was shot. In 1898, the Empress of Austria was stabbed. 1900, the King of Italy shot. And then in 1901, McKinley shot. They were all killed by anarchists. Now, Great Britain was notorious for safe housing anarchist movements and the assassins they spawned. Which Promethean Action's ebook, It's the British Who Murder Our President's documents. The link is in the description. Now go back to Saturday's attempt. Whatever else emerges, it's clear that Cole operated in a constructed climate of hatred for the man he targeted, just as those anarchists operated over a century ago. And it's no small irony that many of the guests in attendance at the White House Correspondents' Dinner represented the very press who helped construct that climate.
That's right.
You see it in the newspaper and the social media headlines. Trump is an authoritarian, or he's a pedophile. Now, you also have a more diplomatic version, like members of the House of Lords who warn that Trump has, quote, turbocharged the disruption of the international order.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever the temperature scale of the rhetoric, it all comes from the same starting point. What Donald Trump is doing is threatening their system. In 125 years, no president has come this close to dismantling the imperial architecture. President Trump has thrown free trade out the window. He's threatening the power and independence of the Federal Reserve. He is closing off the strategic choke points like the Strait of Hormuz. He's replacing London's shipping insurance racket. He's sanctioning their offshore dirty money operations, and he's pulling the plug on NATO. That's what's behind President Trump's statement after the attack on Saturday.
But you take a look at what's happened to some of our greatest presidents, and it doesn't happen to people that don't do anything, and it's not going to deter me.
That's a president who knows he's making history.
That's right. I'm going to show you some more from her in a moment, but boy, there's some of this information here. When you hear President Trump declare the ballroom is a national security importance, this is why and what he's referring to. If you're looking at your screen, you see the pentagram, basically, almost like the roads were designed, and we've talked about this in the past, in the Hall of D.C., kind of set up in a kind of a satanic ritual type of formation. The TV will not prepare you for the spiritual battle and free fall awaits, but Anons are ready. You can pretend not to be affected by this and try to stall, willfully ignorant, but you already know. You're going to have to deal with this part. The layout of D.C., official role, capital of the republic, real agenda, occult power grid, Masonic influence, eternal, Anon exposure 1,000%. The layout of Washington, D.C., they told us it was just a practical city planned by Pierre Lafont. Anons knew the truth, deliberately designed with Masonic and occult geometry, inverted pentagrams, Babylonian street layouts, sacred geometry, channeling power from the White House to the Capitol aligned for ritual significance. The city itself functions as a massive occult machine. The clock is ticking on the hidden architecture. The Great Awakening is exposing the blueprint. D.C., an occultic city paving the way for the New World Order, the Nazi World Order, right? It's no secret Washington, D.C. was designed by Masons. D.C. is laced with occultic and Masonic statues, landmarks, and symbols that honor the ancient gods or fallen angels, Saturn, Neptune, Athena, Jupiter, Zeus, and more all appear in D.C., yet the most blatant satanic symbol is the recreated setting of Isis or Osiris. Washington obelisk at 6,660 inches high and 666 inches wide is the missing phallic of Osiris, and the Capitol dome is the womb of Isis. Thus, the elite are waiting for their gods to return as they continue to build the New World Order from D.C. Even the streets in D.C. are laid out to depict occult symbols like the pentagram. The name District of Columbia also honors Isis, as Columbia is Isis. D.C. is a mega occultic city where demonic powers through puppet leaders and politicians have influenced the USA for over 200 years. Now I'm going to show you, SG Anon put this out. Make no mistake, if Donald Trump had not won the 2016 presidential election, it would have been literal hell on earth. The Luciferians have always proclaimed their intentions for America, Lucifer being the bearer of light, Satan and the world on the only thing or reality they are about: money. There's reason the new currency being issued for America's 250th birthday, and for the first time having a sitting president's signature in the USA $100 bill. Mass extinction timeline was averted. Mass awakening timeline was activated. And he played this video as a reminder of what they had planned for us, and they put it into their money.
Here is the new $100 bill. The tin has been turned upside down. Anyone that watches my ministry should know what that means. Here come contrails of missiles right here. Here's a contrail of a missile coming in, exploding. Coming in from this side right here, exploding.
So what you're looking at, or if you're listening, he took a $100 bill, he folded it a certain way, and we've done this before. I've showed you in the past what they did with their money and how they manipulate it to show us and foreshadow what they planned for our country. They did it for 9/11. It was proven in the money. We saw that. But they had something else planned if Hillary got in.
The reason I'm showing it to you on this is because once you put it in a higher resolution, it's difficult to see. But with the naked eye, here again is the contrail coming in, missile exploding. This is going to be New York City, and you're going to see the water coming through now after this. Here are the buildings. Here are the buildings right here. See the buildings right here? Okay, you see all this ink right here that makes the unidirectional lines? There's darker ink in certain spots. You'll see it. Okay, these unidirectional lines is movement towards the subject, which is us. As I change the magnification, you're going to see all of this. All of this is going to turn to waves coming in from those nukes that went down, and they're going to be destroying the city. Watch. Here it goes. There it is. See it? See how it changed? See how it gets all fluffy? Boom. There it is. Buildings being wiped out. There it is. See the water? That's water. I'm going to go back. Look. There it is. Now picture the water coming at you. Boom. Boom.
Just like they show you in the movies, The Day After Tomorrow, 2004. Right there on your screen. They always tell us what they're going to do. So the money and the framing of the movie, Day After Tomorrow, are exactly the same as what they put into the money, what they had planned. So let's go a little bit further through this and look at some of the more info.
Also, event is going to happen. They've cleared out Lake Mead. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. It's printed on the money. Okay, let me show you what's going to cause this. Here's the other side of the $100 bill. I'm going to enlarge it. There you go. This is all water splashing up. This is a missile right here. There are the fins of the missile. Here's the fuselage of the missile and the head of the missile impacting into the water. This ink represents the water going up and a nuke. Watch as I change the magnification. Ready? There it is. There it is.
So as he changes the magnification, you can see that the whole thing plays out like a movie. All information placed into the money. Now we've got President Trump, right, signing the new $100 bill, basically getting rid of what they had planned, and they encoded into their New World Order bills. So just, again, thank you, SG Anon, for that reminder. Donald Trump had not won the 2016 presidential election, 2016. It would have been literal hell on earth. Now, I want to remind you guys, we have great gear, andweknow.com or shop.andweknow.com. Reminder, we've got our new, women's new 3/4 sleeve V-necks are finally here. And also, we got new colors in our classic hoodies. If you're looking at your screen, you can go there. Many available up to size 3XL. Here's more great pictures of Patriots wearing our gear.
The empire knows what's at stake. Here's what Reuters is counting on. King Charles on U.S. mission to bolster UK's special relationship with royalist Trump. They're counting on the continuation of the soft power relationship that the monarchy has cultivated with presidents for 70 years. Like the one Susan Page, the author of the just published book, The Queen and Her Presidents, The Hidden Hand That Shaped History, describes. She says, on her first trip to the United States as a sovereign, Queen Elizabeth II so charmed President Dwight Eisenhower that she managed to mend a breach between their two countries over the 1956 Suez Crisis. Now, Suez was the last time a U.S. president seriously and openly challenged the empire. When France and Britain moved to seize the canal in 1956, Eisenhower told them to stop, and he threatened to crash the British pound. They stopped. And it was the moment Britain discovered it no longer had independent power, and it had to rely on manipulating the United States instead. From then on, it relied on soft power to direct the United States. And Page's new book makes clear that it was Queen Elizabeth herself who wielded that power. Here's Page's description in a recent interview.
So almost every day she would get briefing papers. Every week she would get top secret intelligence documents. And so over the period of decades, she was as informed about intelligence issues around the world as any other person, for over a longer period of time than any leader, and even over issues, say, contingency plans for a nuclear war.
This is not a figurehead. Queen Elizabeth got top secret intelligence briefings every day for 70 years. She was in on the nuclear war contingency plans, and you can bet she had the full take on the Five Eyes intelligence operation. And she used it. Page describes how the personal relationship between Elizabeth and Ronald Reagan contributed to Reagan's decision to support Great Britain in the Malvinas Islands crisis with Argentina, despite opposition from some of his advisors. Elizabeth was heeding Winston Churchill's advice, quote, "Stay close to the Americans," unquote. And it worked until Donald Trump came to town. And again, in that PBS interview, Page spills the beans.
You report that a senior British official described the Queen wearing the Obama brooch on the day of President Trump's arrival as a silent act of resistance. That is a striking claim for a monarch who was really studied in neutrality.
A rare example of that. But this was a brooch that Michelle Obama had given her. She had worn it only once, and that was for the reciprocal dinner with the Obamas. For 7 years, she had not been seen in public. Then on the day that President Trump arrives in England, she is in a formal meeting with some religious leaders, and she's wearing it. And I think those close to her told me there was no other way to interpret that, but to interpret it as a statement of resistance to Trump and a statement of support for President Obama, with whom she was actually quite close.
The next day, during that visit to London, President Trump broke royal etiquette and walked ahead of the Queen. This is the backstory that you have to remember while you watch the pomp and circumstance over the next several days. Because soft power and ceremony is not going to undo the hard power which Donald Trump has taken to the British-created post-war liberal order. And the House of Lords just admitted it. Last week, Chatham House premiered a new report published by the British House of Lords International Relations and Defense Committee entitled Adjusting to New Realities, Rebalancing the UK-US Partnership. Now, that committee is chaired by Lord Robertson, who was the former NATO General Secretary, and it includes Lord Kim Durack, whose relationship to Donald Trump tells you everything. Then Sir Kim Durack was Britain's ambassador to Washington in Trump's first term until 2019, when his cables calling the Trump administration inept and insecure were leaked.
Yep. And this guy went on to bring up something very interesting that she's going to share.
As Lord Robertson said in his introduction, a U.S. retreat from what is commonly called the rules-based international order, which
It's good. We're retreating from the international order. Good.
Defined is the system of institutions and rules set up after the Second World War to manage relations between states, to promote prosperity, and to prevent conflict. And as a medium-sized
Prevent conflict. Oh, we're in conflict now that we're trying to get out of it.
Open economy and a history of supporting free trade, we in the UK have found that system has suited us well.
It has? Really?
It looks to us that increasingly Americans are taking a different view.
Amen.
Suited us quite well. That's an understatement. And in the House of Lords report itself, Lord MacDonald made clear that that system, which suits the British quite well, doesn't work without the United States.
Oh,
he
boy.
said, there is no credible law without effective enforcement. And on the international stage, there is no effective enforcement without the United States.
Can you believe it? All this information that's been shared on the Q board, just all coming to light, isn't it? If America falls, the world falls. Oh, man.
Then back to Lord Durack, he delivered the indictment that it is Donald Trump's United States which has abandoned this post-war architecture.
There's also, one could argue, and Lord Robertson again mentioned this in his introduction, a quite clear disdain for disregard for international law, as demonstrated recently by the military actions in Venezuela and Iran. And in some ways, American foreign policy seems to be moving back to an older tradition that is more nationalist.
That older, more nationalistic tradition was last fully exercised when William McKinley was president.
Aha! The connection to McKinley. Absolutely brilliant. Folks, I skipped through a lot of this. Encourage you to go in the description box below. Check out Promethean. Actually, they've been doing a great job just connecting all the dots and getting us out of this old world order system. And these old world order folks, like Representative Rosa DeLauro, if it's even a female, well, she was, basically embarrassed by the EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin.
The budget proposal reads like a climate change denier's manifesto. When climate change is flooding our streets, poisoning our air, driving up healthcare and disaster costs, how can the EPA justify abandoning that duty to protect Americans to appease polluters under the false flag of economic growth?
Following the law, Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, where does it say anything about fighting global climate change? Loper Bright, Supreme Court case, you're familiar with it?
No, I maybe others are not, but let me ask.
But that's really important. As a member of Congress, Loper Bright says that we as an agency don't have the authority to get creative. If Section 202 of the Clean Air Act.
No, but you don't have, excuse me, you do not have the right to say climate change does not exist, that it's a hoax, and that's where this administration is coming from.
I understand you're upset that you don't know what Loper Bright is. Do you know what the major policies doctrine is?
I'm upset because.
You know what the major policies doctrine is?
You know what, let me just.
You're a member of Congress. You should know.
Well, you have moved from someone who defended the environment to all of a sudden.
Being very defensive about not knowing the two biggest landmark Supreme Court cases of the last year with regards to your question.
You are very defensive about changing your policy and your positions with regard to the environment.
Okay.
Now, you just tell
me. Do you want me to tell you what the two biggest Supreme Court cases are of the last few years?
But this is what I want you to tell me.
Michigan versus EPA.
Whoa.
West Virginia versus EPA.
You know, you're here because you need money from us. So halt for the second. And wait for the questions and answer the question.
Well, I answered your question, and you didn't like my answer because you don't know what Loper Bright is, because you don't know what the major policies doctrine is, because you're asking me about Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, and you don't read it. You don't know what it says.
Listen, and what you want to do is to deny.
No, I actually read the law. I do my homework.
Really?
You're just somebody who likes to have the microphone on. You know what I have to do? I read the law. I read the Supreme Court cases.
This, and I would say
what you should do for your constituents is actually read statute.
The budget is at real risk.
Read your Supreme Court.
This is the Appropriations Committee.
Oh, you care about science? Now you're threatening to defund it?
Oh my God! No, you don't fund
because
science.
You don't know what Loper Bright is. Because you don't know what the major policies doctrine is. Your message to our folks at the EPA is that you want to defund us.
I don't have to listen to this BS.
BS. You think I made up these cases?
Get them, Lee.
Yeah, I think you have made up
I made up Loper Bright. I made up West Virginia versus EPA. I made up Michigan versus EPA.
Whoa is right. What are you doing? Why are you helping polluters?
We're not going to get very far by talking on top of each other so that no one can hear. Mm-hmm. If you ask a question, you have to give the witness an opportunity to respond.
I do not have to have the witness attack me.
The witness is attacking me. He's making me look like a fool. He's asking me questions I can't answer. He's making me look stupid like I really am. How dare he? The OMB director, Russ Vought, confirmed massive $1.3 trillion in savings for the American people.
No other president would have done this to get at the foundations of the Green New Deal. So tremendously excited that we are where we are today. Great work by Lee. I'm a little worried that this next year will be EPA alone will be dereg east by the number of things that are going to come out of EPA. So great work to the team. $1.3 trillion in savings. Massive historical opportunity. Thank you.
Massive opportunities. Egg Wakened Outlaw showed us this. If you look at Iran now burning its own oil, massive flares and thick black smoke over Kazakhstan. Blocked exports leave tanks full. They're forced to torch the excess just to keep operating. As expected, this means that Iran's storage capacity is full and they have nowhere to put it. The problem for them is that turning off their rigs is a nightmare, as it's not only a problem getting them to produce again. It could take months and mountains of cash, and even if they do, the damage to the fields means most are likely to never produce again at capacity, if at all. Meanwhile, they're missing $500 million a day in revenue they can't afford to lose. Oil exports are primary source of income.
At the end of the day, even though they are radicals, there are still people in the Iranian system that every single day, behind every decision they make, they weigh the costs and they weigh the benefits. And we have to make sure that the costs of all the nefarious things they are doing outweigh the benefits of what they are doing. And this is the reason why the blockade is in place. The blockade is not a blockade against shipping. It's a blockade against Iranian shipping because they cannot be the sole beneficiaries of an illegal, unlawful, and unjustified system of tolling and control in the Straits.
Yeah. Got to keep it real. The U.S. Supreme Court just struck down a lower court's order blocking Texas's new congressional maps. These maps are expected to deliver 5 new Republican seats in the U.S. House after the 2026 midterm. SCOTUS cited their own December 2025 ruling against another challenge. Democrats are running out of lawfare options. The steal is getting harder. Minnesota Medicaid fraud exposed. Somali-owned companies and state grant writer in on the scam. Home health care companies bought by Somalis in Minnesota. Medicaid billing skyrockets immediately after. State grant writer Lul Osman, who approves hundreds of thousands of taxpayer grants, is a co-owner of Access Healing Center. Even worse, one owner, Manamed Mohammed, created fake transfer documents to cover up fraud. Metadata proves the document was created on November 6, 2025, nearly 2 years after the claimed data. It's a textbook conflict of interest and money laundering operation using your tax dollars. Minnesota Democrats have enabled this for years. Time to investigate every single one of these interconnected companies, hold everyone involved accountable. Boy, a lot of stuff going on with money. And if you missed it, we had an amazing interview Saturday that we dropped with Dr. Kirk Elliott, going over the revolt against the dollar, the monetary reform with Judy Shelton quotes, and more. You can reach out to Dr. Kirk Elliott, andweknow.com/gold, and get your information there. It's pretty good. Connecticut Democrats declare war on religious freedom. They're ending all religious vaccine exemptions. House Bill 5044 passed both chambers and is headed to Governor Ned Lamont's desk. The bill eliminates religious exemptions for school vaccines. Applies to public schools, private schools, colleges, and childcare. Explicitly states that Connecticut's Religious Freedom Restoration Act does not apply. It's a direct attack on families currently suing to restore their religious rights. Democrats aren't hiding it anymore. They work for Big Pharma, not the people. Forced medical procedures with 0 religious exemptions is tyranny. Unconstitutional, un-American. Parents' rights and religious liberty are under assault. Hopefully Connecticut fights back. Turns out $180 billion of fraud uncovered in California could actually be as much as $280 billion. That's right. They're digging in more and more. At least 133 California death row inmates had unemployment benefits claims filed and paid in their names, totaling roughly $420,000. Enough is enough, says President Trump. I don't think President Trump put this out from the White House. I do think that the hate speech of the Democrats is very dangerous. I really think it's dangerous for the country. Not only their hate speech, but their stealing of all of our money, stealing the elections and more is what I think. President Trump reposted the White House post saying enough's enough with a timestamp of 12:57 p.m. Let's check out a Q post that uses the phrase enough is enough. There it is. Enough is enough. Tend to comply. Choice is yours. President Trump is making it pretty obvious what he's trying to say with this calm. The president recent tweet relevant here. Enough is enough. The EU was warned. They have tend to comply. Signed Q plus DJT. We are hostages no more. This fight behind the scenes continues. So let's see what comes on the surface over the next week or so. And Patriots don't sleep. I'm going to show you this one, this amazing comm that was put out by Ultra Macadine just a few hours ago. He caught it when President Trump actually threw in some misspellings for us. So on Saturday, President Trump put out this truth that he missed before it got corrected and recorrected again. That was when President Trump said I canceled the trip of my representatives going Islamabad. He put is instead of going to. And then you have President Donald J. Trump, which was supposed to be, but he put a K, Donakd J. Trump, Donakd J. Trump. Wow. He said, thanks to the And We Know podcast today, I caught it because we took a screenshot of it and he said, hey, How come President Trump's name is spelled incorrectly? And President Trump's first truth, the one LT used on his show, not only did he use is instead of to, he spelled his name D-O-N-A-K-D. Well, then he went back and corrected the spelling of his name and just left the is instead of the to. He followed up by posting a duplicate truth with all the spelling correct. This means President Trump is definitely trying to bring attention to not only the I and S in is, but also the K that he used in D-O-N-A-K-D instead of L. When President Trump highlights misspellings like this, he wants us to use those letters in kill brackets or put them in brackets. So this is what it looks like. I in the brackets, S in the brackets, a K in the brackets. And out of all the 4,966 Q posts, there's only one post that has all three letters in those brackets, in the kill brackets. And that is drop 144. Here's that drop. I'm going to show it to you. There's the I, there's the S, and there's the K. Do you see that, folks? Yeah. So drop 144 says Patriots don't sleep. 40,000 foot view necessary to understand the USA global events. Paint the picture, decrease altitude. We will not fly that high again. Higher the altitude, greater the risk of conspiracy. Many cannot, will not swallow. What is no such agency? Q group? It's a question. You know, I remember I told you I saw the movie the other day. And very interesting because the guy in the movie said NSA is the no such agency. I thought, well, that's interesting. A movie from the 90s with Bruce Willis in it. Pretty interesting. Who has clearance to the full picture? Important. Admiral R. Rogers. What agency is at war with clowns in America? CIA. How does POTUS shift narrative? New Age of Enlightenment. 80% covert, 20% public. What has occurred over the last several months? And there's another TH, guys, in the target brackets, okay? We're going to look at these target brackets, but there they are, all the way down. Okay? Alice in Wonderland, Snowden, Iron Eagle, Godfather 3, and all these others. And then it has at the bottom For Humanity, Geronimo. Well, in all of this, Dean Elliott catches this. Dean Erickson, excuse me. It looks like we're coming in for a landing. A lot of those questions in the post will be answered for God and country and for humanity in Geronimo. But there's one more thing that's hidden inside this post that most people don't realize. All the letters in the kill brackets form a message. I will point them out by using this here, this emoji. So let's see the letters that are in the kill brackets that we need to put together. And that is from these guys, from this drop. You go into all the kill bracket letters and you notice this. You have the US, risk, THISWEEK, and finishes with God and country. Now, when you put all these letters together, President Trump's message comes across loud and clear. US risk this week for God and country. And I'll just add this, bombs away, Geronimo. So keep your head on a swivel, stay safe. It appears something big is coming this week. And let's hope it's the mother of all bombs we've all been waiting for.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you again. So grateful to you. Thank you for all that you continue to do for us. The amazing moves that are being made by those that you've assigned, that you brought up to this point, that have been great leaders to take down this evil cabal. Thank you for all of this playing out before the public to try to wake them up. We ask that you continue to just surround all of those on the front lines with amazing protection. We know that you have our great leaders protected. We ask for just continued guidance for them and decisions that they make, and the guidance of this, not only this country, but against the cabal, and helping all of us understand and know a little bit about what's going on. We thank you for your continued fight for us. We thank you for answer to prayers. So many people have been coming to know you through your Son, Jesus Christ, and reading your word. We ask for continued guidance for our own lives, how we talk to others, how we deal with others, and more. We certainly need it. Without you, we can do absolutely nothing. We thank you, Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior, we pray. Amen and amen. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. Thank you for your love, your support, your prayers, and so much more. Certainly was a lot to go through today. Hope you were able to get through it all. If not, we can just go through and watch it again. And thank you so much. For now, this is LT Semper Fi with Them We Know. Signing out.
Individuals are led to believe these words are truth and then are inspired to act on it. I have a whole host of examples that we can share with you after. It is pages and pages of major Democrat Party elected officials saying, such as Rep. Hakeem Jeffries just this month said, "We are in an era of maximum warfare everywhere all the time."
I stand by it. You can continue to criticize me for it.
Many people in this room, if we're going to be honest about it, have done it as well. They're just as guilty as a lot of people on X. When you have reporters, when you have media just being overly critical and calling the president horrible names for no reason and without evidence, without proof, it shouldn't surprise us that this type of rhetoric takes place.
And the timing of what's happening this week tells you everything. Today, King Charles arrives in Washington, just as a conveniently timed book is published called The Queen and Her Presidents, The Hidden Hand That Shaped History. Well, that hidden hand is not happy with Donald Trump.
What happens when the enemy is not external, but inside?
Many people in this room, if we're going to be honest about it,
as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be MAGA.
Saturday night, Donald Trump is the target of a third